This is the Excel sheet I use. I have every single monster that's been out so far for 4th edition by level and by role. And then I'll be like, oh, I want to make a level 7 encounter, and then I'll limit it to level 7 in Excel and be like, oh, I always wanted to try out this monster because it looks so cool when I was reading it in the monster manual. So then I'll pick that monster and put it over here, and I'll be like, what would go with it? Put in each monster, put in the experience points, and then I put down the side number of people, and then I can create the encounter for a target experience point.
I've just spent 2 weeks just trying to get ready for tonight, and all I did was just characters. I found these character sheets online, and it's very complicated, and it's in Adobe Acrobat. You can type in what you want, it does the adjustments for you, but it's a lot of work inputting what you need. Each character sheet has taken me hours and hours and hours.
You can't just be DM and fly by the seat of your pants. It takes preparation, it takes knowledge of the rules, etc.
I stay 10 feet, just flying around.
No, you don't.
It doesn't say you still.
It says every time you cast a lightning spell, you fly 10 feet. What happens when you don't cast a lightning spell? You fall. God, read it. You read it. Read it. What's it?
I really come from an old school opinion on the rules. I don't want to argue about them. I'll make the decision then and there. Right or wrong, the decision has been made for that session. We go. Afterwards, we can talk about it, we can debate it. I'll take 3 hours out of a day, we can go over it. But in the middle of the session, go, go, go.
As a GM, I'm not the rules guy. I surround myself with the rules lawyers so that when I need a decision on something, I can just look over at one guy and he'll have it in a few seconds.
Every person who's played for any length of time starts creating their own game, their own set of rules, their own set of house rules, just copies of some key things here. Notes about Planescape World in general for some of the players that didn't know them, including like a 4th edition version of some of the creatures.
One thing that I like is handouts. Something that people can, that you can show to the players, that pictures, maps, things like that. I spend a lot of time in Photoshop trying to alter things, the way that I need to. Customizable maps I would love.
One thing that I've learned not to do, and it's hard not to do, is provide them with too much information. Where these journal entries, really just limited to a page. They're not going to really be interested in more than a page.
As long as I know the high points I have to hit. So they decide not to take that amazing plot hook that I threw out there with a juicy piece of steak and, diamonds thrown on it. Sometimes your players are going to be like, that plot hook is going to be a trap, we're not going for it. And so I just build in multiple plot hooks and kind of roll with it to bring it back.
This book here is basically a bunch of adventures for people who have little time or money to go out and purchase individual adventure arcs. I liked using it because it's got a lot of cool rooms and encounters and stuff like that.
Bullywugs say they were created by the original primordials, not the gods. I will almost always start with a published adventure and then change it to how I see fit. I'll read Dungeon Magazine, I'll find an adventure, I'm like, oh, I really like this, I'll convert it to 4th edition. I was looking to steal Scooby-Doo cartoon plots. Because some of them are really simple and really interesting and kind of cool.
You don't need to be original, you almost don't want to be original. You want to be familiar, you just want it to be fun. Getting the hostages out of the bank, robbing the bank, things that they've seen over and over again in the movies to get them to interact with this more.
So I think we better make a hasty retreat.
Not until I had my husband Scott did this particular ease of gaming come about. He has miniatures, lots of miniatures.
Every now and then I'll just buy a box of miniatures and then I'll look at what miniatures I have and go, all right, I've got 4 dwarves and a giant. How can I make 4 dwarves and a giant now part of the next problem that they have to face?
I collect PC minis because most players prefer to play with a mini that looks like their character, even if the monsters aren't necessarily minis. So then I make tons of paper minis. I print it out, glue it together, and then cut them out. That's a gnoll. Here's a salamander. I liked having the specific picture because nowadays it's important to know exactly what you're fighting. If you're completely broke and still want to play D&D, multi-use labels. You just get out a bunch of coins, and then right on here, this is an Orc Berserker. Bam, you have an Orc Berserker. Anybody can do this. One major thing I saw on pictures of Gen Con, this is what keeps track of initiative. So you put these in order, so then the whole table can tell when their turn is going to come up. Then you can put these right on. So when you look here and you, oh, it's my turn. Oh, by the way, I'm taking ongoing damage. Gotta take it. Most effects you can keep on here because they only take into account at the start of your turn. You're like, oh, if I'm dazed this round, I only get one action. But bloodied, I put right on the minis. There's only actually 3 things important on the map. Bloodied, dazed or stunned, and marked. This fighter just marked him. These are necessities for maybe 20% of the players. I think 80% of the players would be just as happy playing with chess pieces or coins, as long as the story is good and the combat is fun.